Hello everyone, welcome back. Jeff Wayne here at the Linden Library. It's now mid-June and we're getting ready to reopen, at least for circulation purposes here. We'll be having curbside pickup starting again here next week. Check the library website out for details. There's a whole process to the thing, but we are getting the library to be a living being again. But we're still going to give you some videos now and then to give you some programs, and today it's a Father's Day program. We gave the Mother's Day due last month, now it's up to the fathers. So Sunday is Father's Day. And let me wish a happy Father's Day to all the dads who are watching this. In many ways, though, we seem to take fathers for granted. There might be something to that, too, because it's true in the eyes of the federal government. Mother's Day was first proclaimed a holiday by Woodrow Wilson in 1914, while Father's Day did not receive formal federal recognition until 1972. So it's inevitable that we should make more of a fuss about our mothers than we do our fathers, although both parents play equally important roles within the family in raising successful children. But it seems that fathers are much less sentimentalized and aren't thought of nearly as much as mothers are, unless the father goes missing. This is especially true in literature, films, television, and other media. I mean, there are many, many more quotes about mothers than there are fathers. So here are a few to try to turn the tide toward the paternal influences in our lives. Theodore Roosevelt, who was a father of 6, said this: "There are many kinds of success in life worth having. It is exceedingly interesting and attractive to be a successful businessman, a railwayman, a farmer, or a successful lawyer or doctor, or a writer, or be a president, or a ranchman, or the colonel of a fighting regiment, or to kill grizzly bears and lions. But for unflagging interest and enjoyment, a household of children, if things go reasonably well, certainly makes all other forms of success and achievement lose their importance in comparison." The abolitionist and civil rights pioneer Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to build up strong children than to repair broken men." Noted author David Jeremiah said, "A girl's father is the first man in her life and probably the most influential." Hall of Fame baseball player Harmon Killebrew recalled his childhood. He said, "My father used to play with my brother and me in the yard. Mother would come out and say, 'You're tearing up the grass.' 'We're not raising grass,' Dad would reply. 'We're raising boys.'" Even religious influences stress the importance of fathers. The Talmud states, "When you teach your son, you teach your son's son." Pope John the 23rd said, "It is easier for a father to have children than for children to have a real father." The Reverend Billy Graham said at one of his crusades, "A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, yet one of the most valuable assets in our society." Even skeptics of religion still believe in the importance of fathers. Sigmund Freud said, "I cannot think of a need in children as strong as the need of a father's protection." Enough on the quotes. Let me get to some people who have written more than a line or two on the subject. These authors range from a woman back in the 17th century to modern-day poets. First up is America's greatest wit and the father of 3 himself, Julius Henry Groucho Marx. Groucho complained that there were no songs written for fathers and reached out to an old friend, Harry Ruby. Ruby was a successful and noted Broadway and Hollywood composer. He was a frequent collaborator of Groucho's, most notably for his Hooray for Captain Spaulding song from the musical and film Animal Crackers. This became Groucho's theme song for half a century. Ruby wrote a song called Father's Day, which Groucho sang at Carnegie Hall in 1974. I will read, not sing, this for you now. Father's Day by Harry Ruby. "Dear old Dad, we are glad to be with you on this day of days, and we swear always that we will be here on this day each year. Today, Father, is Father's Day. We're giving you a tie. It's not much, we know, but it's just our way of showing you that we think you're a regular guy. You say it was nice of us to bother, but it's really a pleasure to fuss. For according to our mother, you're our father, and that's good enough for us. Today, Father, is Father's Day, a day that we revere, the tie that you got and didn't cost a lot. But we'll give you the same tie next year. You tell us it was nice of us to bother, but it really was a pleasure to fuss. For they say a child can only have one father, and you were the one for us. Yes, you were the one for us. And much more better when it's sung, but I'm not going to try to compete with Groucho Marx on that department. All right, I've got a couple of poems here about fathers and daughters, written over 3 centuries apart. The first is from a daughter to her father in the 17th century. The second from a father to his daughter in the late 20th century. Although there are hundreds of years separating them, they both have a similar sentiment about the same basic relationship from opposite directions. The first poem, which goes back to the 17th century, is written by Anne Bradstreet. It's entitled To Her Father with Some Verses. Most truly honored and as truly dear, if worth in me or aught I do appear, who can of right better demand the same than may your worthy self from whom it came? The principal might yield a greater sum, yet handle ill the amounts but to this crumb. My stock so small I do not know how to pay, my bond remains in force until this day. Yet for part payment take this simple mite, where there is nothing to be had, kings lose their right. Such is my debt I may not forgive, but as I can, I'll pay it while I live. Such is my bond, none can I discharge but I, yet paying it is not paid until I die. Again, from Anne Bradstreet back in the 17th century. Let's forward to the late 20th century, and a poet named Gregory Orr wrote a poem written the opposite way, a father looking at his daughter, called Father's Song. Yesterday, against admonishment, my daughter balanced on the couch back, fell and cut her mouth. Because I saw it happen, I knew she was not hurt, and yet a child's blood so red it stops a father's heart. My daughter cried her tears. I held some ice against her lip, and that was the end of it. Round and round, bow and kiss. I try to teach her caution. She tries to teach me risk. Edgar Guest was a 20th century poet who wrote these 2 interesting looks at father as dad. I couldn't choose the two of them, so I present both of them to you now. First one was entitled A Boy and His Dad. A boy and his dad on a fishing trip. There is glorious fellowship. Father and son in the open sky, and the white clouds lazily drifting by. And the laughing stream as it runs along, with clicking reel like a marshal's song. And the father teaching the youngster gay how to land a fish in the sportsman's way. I fancy I hear them talking there in an open boat, and the speech is fair. The boy is learning the ways of men from the finest man in his youthful ken. Kings to the youngster cannot compare with a gentle father who's with him there. And the greatest mind of the human race, not for 1 minute could take his place. Which is happier, man or boy? The soul of the father is steeped in joy, for he is finding out to his heart's delight that his son is fit for the future fight. He is learning the glorious depths of him, and the thoughts he thinks on his every whim. And he shall discover when the night comes on, how close he has grown to his little son. A boy and his dad on a fishing trip, builders of life's companionship. Oh, I envy them as I see them there, under the sky in the open air. For out of the old long ago, come the summer days that I used to know, when I learned life's truths from my father's lips, as I show the joy of his fishing trips. And that's the first one by every guest. Here's the second one. Just called Only a Dad. Only a dad with a tired face coming home from the daily race, bringing little of gold or fame to show how well he has played the game, but glad in his heart that his own rejoice to see him come and to hear his voice. Only a dad with a brood of 4, one of 10 million men or more, plodding along in the daily strife, bearing the whips and the scorns of life, with never a whimper of pain or hate, for sake of those who at home await. Only a dad, neither rich nor proud, merely one of the surging crowd, toiling, striving from day to day, facing whatever may come his way, silent whenever the harsh condemn, and bearing it all for the love of them. Only a dad, but he gives his all to smooth the way for his children small, doing with courage stern and grim the deeds that his father did for him. This is the line that for him I pen, only a dad, but the best of men. Sadly, and all too often, many of us lose our fathers, and often at a young age. This is tragic enough. When your father is killed in battle defending our nation, it's doubly so. Yes, there's a certain heroism out there, but the loss is just as great for the children. Here is a poem by Walt McDonald on the loss of his father during World War II. It's called My Father on His Shield. Shiny as wax, the cracked veneer scotch taped and brittle. I can't bring my father back. Long legs crossed, he sits there brash with a private stripe, a world away from the war that would ship him within days. Cannons flank his face, and banners above him like the flag. My mother kept on the mantle folded tight, white star sharp pointed on a field of blue. I remember his fist, the iron he pounded, 5-pound hammer ringing steel, the frame he made for his sled that winter before the war. I remember the rope in his fist around my chest, the other fist shoveling the snow, and downhill we dived. His boots by my boots on the tongue pines, wishing by, ice in my eyes, blinking and squealing. I remember the troop train, steam billowing like a smoke screen. I remember wrecking the sled weeks later and pounding to beat the iron flat, but it stayed there bent and stacked in the barn by the anvil, and I can't bring him back. For the last poem today, I'd like to give you a look at a father through a child's eyes, and the little things that a father will do to keep his family household up and running while it takes in a few extra winks on a cold winter's morning. Robert Hayden remembers this for all of us. In his poem he wrote called Those Winter Sundays. Sundays too my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather made banks fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering, breaking. The rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, feeling the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? Again, just a short look at some poetry and words about fathers over the years. I hope that you appreciated these poems we put up in these little presentations we have. We'll hope to do some more until we get things really going with the library. Again, like I said, we'll be open for circulation purposes. You will not be able to get inside the building. It'll be a curbside pickup situation. Please, again, check the library website out at lindenpl.org for more details. And of course, like us on Facebook. That's how you're seeing this presentation today. And leave a comment if you like. And we look forward to seeing you here at the library really, really soon. Thank you, folks. Happy Father's Day to all. Have a good day.